Hey readers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire Books, and I thought what I would do for this video is just compile a best of 2021. I went back through my Goodreads and I made a list of all the books I gave 5 stars to, and I'm going to list them here in this video and look back on why I liked them so much. They're not in any particular order, I literally just went chronologically, but there should be something in here for everybody. It's a mixture of fiction and nonfiction, which I was really happy to see. So my first 5-star read of the year was Shogi Bane by Douglas Stewart. This won the Booker Prize last year, and it is about a young man who's discovering his sexuality and also dealing with an alcoholic mother in Scotland. And this book is really sad. It's got a lot of very emotionally brutal moments to it, but it's also really lyrical and beautiful and good. And I still, almost a year later, have very strong memories of this book and how it made me feel. So that tells me that it was deserving of its 5 stars because it's still something that I think about occasionally. And now looking back and thinking over my memories of the book, they are there. That's not true for every book I read. So definitely still a great choice if you're looking for something to read that's going to emotionally wreck you, but is also beautiful. My next 5-star read was nonfiction, and it was called 9 Days, The Race to Save Martin Luther King Jr.'s Life and Win the 1960 Election. This was by Stephen and Paul Kendrick, and it was a book that was a just beautifully done nonfiction investigation, the activism that Martin Luther King became involved with in his life, especially in support of younger activists and support of students, the people who were around him at the time that he got arrested during some sit-ins, and then the impact that his arrest had on the 1960 presidential election between Kennedy and Nixon. It was such an interesting look into the time, into white politicians' attempts to be in favor of civil rights without making anybody too mad, into Martin Luther King's bravery, the affection that people around him had for him, and the danger that he was really in while he was doing his work. It's just beautifully done. I was so into it. I just really felt a deep appreciation for this book, which I still feel when I hear the title, and I may go back and read that one again at some point. I thought it was great. My next 5-star read is also nonfiction. This one's called The Sum of Us, What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together. It is by Heather McGee, and it is a really well-researched book that is about how racism actually impacts a number of social issues that we might not think of, including things like the mortgage crisis, and that if we focused on what would benefit everybody, instead of trying to keep certain people away from their rightful seats at the table, then our entire society would prosper. McGee did a great job with her research. I was very convinced by what she had to say, and I thought she said it super well. It was just tightly written with great evidence, very elegant as a book with a fantastic point. So I really think this book would be a good read for anyone, and I still highly recommend it here at the end of 2021, now in early 2022. After that, I gave 5 stars to 2 other pieces of nonfiction. This is a big year of nonfiction for me, apparently. But both of these were by Barbara Demick. The first one that I just fell in love with her writing on was called Eat the Buddha, and it was about a town in Tibet that is the world capital for self-immolation, which is a really depressing and difficult topic. And she did a really good job of interviewing people who had fascinating stories that wove together by the end in ways that I didn't always expect and that were very moving. This led me to read another book of hers, which is called Nothing to Envy, Ordinary Lives in North Korea, which was a similar tight interview process that led to a really interesting examination of North Korean society. And she even managed to get people who had really loved the regime and people who had never really liked the regime. So she got a variety of perspectives on how people felt about being from North Korea, having lived there. Of course, most of the people she spoke to had since defected because those are the people that you can talk to easily. But she did a really good job of providing a story that had nuance and was very interesting. She's got another book about Sarajevo, I think, and I think I will probably read that one this year because her work was so good and I'm so glad I encountered it. After that was honestly probably my favorite book of the year, which was it's a novel called A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. I did a whole review of this one that I'll link in my show notes, but this was the disturbing tale of a food critic who has murdered and eaten parts of several of her past lovers, and she also writes about them in a way that makes that sound way more tasty than it should, and it was just such a fun read. I've never read anything quite like it, and I absolutely enjoyed it, both on a prurient level and because it was so well done. After that, I gave 5 stars to Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game by Michael Lewis. And I had seen Moneyball the movie, I wanted to read the book, and I was not disappointed. The book did a really good job of talking about the background of people who are really interested in baseball statistics, what those statistics can tell us, and how that can impact the game of baseball. I am a baseball fan, so this probably helped my enjoyment of the book quite a bit, but I also thought it was really well written, it was punchy, it was well done, and I really felt like I'd learned a lot from reading it, and to me, that is the mark of an excellent book. Definitely 5 stars. And then my last 5-star read of the year was The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is the second book in the Poppy War series. I only gave 4 stars to the third because I thought that it dragged at points, but The Dragon Republic was super exciting. It took some of the pacing and excitement of the first book and just kept going. And I was really excited to not find a sagging middle in the center of this trilogy, but instead this whole amazing story arc that was really exciting and that made me mad, that made me laugh, and it was a very, very good, chunky fantasy book that I highly recommend. So that was my last 5-star book of the year. Overall this year, I read about 112 books, and I gave 5 stars to 8 of those books. So as you can see, I'm a little bit picky, but I also think that makes it easier to make your top list at the end of the year. So of all the 112 books I read, many of which were really good. I had a lot of 4-star reads this year, books that I really enjoyed and do not regret reading at all. But the very tippy top, cream of the crop books were these 8. So if you've watched this all the way through, thank you so much, first of all. But I also hope that you will leave me a comment where you tell me what your favorite books of 2021 were. If you feel like it, please do like and subscribe. But most of all, happy reading.